It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is brand new, SNEW. Yeah, it's been a while since we heard that name, SNEW. From their latest release, you've got some nerve, and that is called Something New. And we do have something new from SNEW, and the guy to tell us all about it is our good friend, Curtis Don Vito. Welcome back to the Classic Metal Show there, Curtis.
Always good to be here. It's always good to be harassed by Neely.
Well, you know what, Curtis? We were on board with SNEW the first time that we heard you guys, and, you know, I've always questioned it, and I'm going to question it again after all these years. And what is this, your fourth record?
Yeah.
You're still doing it, and the question is why? And not that I'm complaining. I enjoy everything you do, but, man, in this day and age with the music environment as it is, it's just like you guys forge along there, even though it's not 1970, back in the Zeppelin days and big money record deals.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, just like you and all your listeners, I'm a fan, right?
Yeah.
We don't care. We don't care about who's making what kind of money, you know, or driving in limos. We just want the music.
Right.
Right? And as an Uber fan and somebody who's got the ability to, you know, be creative in that arena, I'm just making more music that I want to listen to.
Right.
So I really don't care about the rest of it.
Well, here's the thing I admire about you and SNEW is the fact that when you do put out a new product, it is top notch. I mean, the production is fantastic. The writing is fantastic. The instrumental and the talent that goes into it is fantastic. It's not just some guys, you know, on a 4-track in their garage.
Yeah.
You know, you guys have like top notch production. And, you know, back in the 80s, this would have been a $500,000 project, but I'm sure you guys are doing it for, you know, 1/100th of that.
Well, it's that, you know. Yeah, no, we count ourselves as being extremely lucky in that the people that we've gotten involved with are on that level or have been on that level, you know, and the days of making those kind of big bucks are over, but they're still, you know, in there doing it, you know. Our producer, Bobby Osinski, he doesn't want a dime. He just wants to make great music. And then we worked with, you know, some of these other guys, like Ken Scott. I mean, the guy's a legend. He's, you know, produced some of the biggest records in the world, but now he's doing it just because he loves music and he wants to be involved, you know. So when we met up with him, it wasn't about paying him big bucks. He just wanted to do it. So we got real lucky in that. We were able to maintain a standard that kind of meets what we want to hear, you know, from, like you said, Zeppelin or whoever. You listen to those records and they sound fantastic, and that's what we want to achieve, and somehow we've been able to do it.
Yeah, know? Well, I would put your guys' records and your production and your, you know, the quality of your product on par with anything that has ever been produced.
Well, I appreciate hearing that, you know. But I got to give credit to all those guys who've gotten involved and gotten us into studios where we could produce that sound. And they liked what we were doing and wanted to, you know, help us create, you know, a great rock record. And so we've been able to do it. And, you know, now we've got that standard. So every time, you know, like you're saying, it's been since 2012, since the last release. Believe me, we wanted to put out something a lot sooner, but it just took time to get us back into that position to maintain that standard.
Absolutely. Well, you know what, you know, I've always kind of categorized you in the kind of the ACDC mold, as well as, you know, some of the newer, and I call it newer, even though they've been around a while, like Airborne. You know, I put you guys like in that category because you have that blue collar working man's rock is the way that I look at it. You know, it's just straight ahead in your face, you know, just ass kicking music.
Yeah, I mean that we would be lumped into that specific area of rock. Sure, we don't mind the comparisons. I mean, after all this time, it'd be nice just to be, seen as our own entity. But people like comparisons, and hell, I mean, to be compared with ACDC, I mean, that's good company.
Yeah, absolutely. well, Curtis, I know that you do a lot of things outside of SNEW. I mean, obviously, if you did SNEW full time, you might be living on, Sunset Strip in a box. But you're
because I'm not.
Yeah, you're calling me from a payphone on the corner of Hollywood and Vine. But
the last remaining payphone in Hollywood. Yeah.
Exactly. But you have a lot of other things going on outside of your musical thing, and we'll touch on the record here in a minute. But one of the things that both Chris and I enjoy about your work personally is the fact that you are involved with Bob Nobb and being the music director for the Inside Metal series and doing a lot of work behind the scenes there. And how did you come to know Bob, and how did you land that gig?
Bob, I mean, I've known him for ages, but we were never friends. It was just, you meet people along the road, and but then somehow we got to talking, and I forget, it might have been the 2012 record, or it might have been one before that, but he heard it, and he was into it, and so we did an interview on his show way back then. And then we kind of became friends, and we were looking for a new bass player. This band has been through more bass players than I can count, but so I asked him if he knew anybody, and he hooked us up with Lenny Spickle, who was from the band Eden, and Bob used to manage Eden. And Lenny's a guitar player, but he also plays bass, and so he came around, and since then we've moved him over to rhythm guitar, because, like I said, he's mainly a guitar player. But at that point, Bob and I really started hanging out, and he took a look at all the SNEW videos that I've been doing, and he said, I'm working on this film. Would you be into maybe editing? And I said, well, hell yeah. I could totally get on board with a project like that. So that's how that started.
Sure. Well, I like seeing your name roll up there on the credits and all the work that you do behind the scenes. And, obviously one of the windfalls of you working on this Inside Metal series is that you do get to inject some SNEW music into the video.
Yeah. Well, that's in part because, Bob likes our stuff, but in part because it's really difficult to get music for these things. We'd love to get, Van Halen or Metallica in the soundtrack, but, the labels want big money for that. So
right.
We have to get creative and get stuff from, some of the lesser-known artists and different people that Bob knows. And so Bob's all, feel free to put as much SNEW in there as you want.
Right. Well, the great thing is even though a lot of this documentary footage deals with bands of the past, the SNEW music seems to just blend right in there with the scenes and the footage.
Yeah. Well, it does. So when I put SNEW music in there, it's because there's a topic of discussion amongst the interviews where it seems like we need something with that sound, and it's like, well, yeah, SNEW's got a song that would fit that.
Sure.
So I try and maintain the integrity of the film. I'm not just throwing it in there because, hey, this is SNEW music and I'm getting it out there.
Yeah, well, I get that. That's what I was saying.
If it fits, I put it in there.
Yeah, it blends very well.
Well, yeah, I mean, because those are our influences, that whole 70s vibe, and maybe early 80s. That's kind of what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's very...
But speaking of that, though, I'm working on the next one, the fourth Inside Metal film, and I think you might be in there, bud.
Yeah, I think I got a little bit of footage in the thrash video, for Inside Metal, the what is it, the Rise of Thrash, or the Bay Area thrash metal scene?
That's the next one we're working on. It focuses on the Bay Area. The one that just came out was the rise of LA thrash metal.
Right.
You know, which was all those bands, you know, Metallica and Megadeth and Slayer and all those guys starting in LA and then moving to the Bay Area. So now we're kind of following them to the Bay Area, and this one's all about that.
Right. Now, have you enjoyed your journey from the very beginning of these Inside Metal series and whatnot?
Oh,
I mean, let me just ask you from somebody on the inside or someone who works behind the scenes, how many hours a week are you dedicated to doing, your job behind the scene with these documentaries?
God. I couldn't even begin to count. You know, I mean, this is another thing where I'm not doing it for the money, let me tell you. Because if you add up the hours, I'm making well below minimum wage.
Right. You might as well drive an Uber, right?
Exactly. So I'm here, you know, when I'm fully entrenched in working on these films, it's 24 hours a day, you know, until it's done, and it takes months, you know, because Bob's still pulling in interviews and getting me things that we need, and you know, it's like a year-long project.
Yeah, well, you know what the thing is I've seen a lot of documentaries. I've been doing this a long time, as I know you're well aware. And these are one of the finest, probably one of the best, if not the best, documentary series that documents this genre of music from the very beginning, and it has a great progression, and it continues on. And it's just amazing to me, because I'll actually sit there, even though I've owned the DVDs and, you know, seen it on Amazon and whatnot, I'll go back and watch it again, because there's always something I may have missed the first time around. There is.
It's just jam-packed with so much information. You can't really absorb it all in one viewing. And yeah, I mean, I got to hand it to Bob. You know, I mean, I whatever credit I get is minimal. These are Bob's films.
Oh yeah, I know that.
I'm just trying to help him make them watchable. You know, that's kind of my thing as the editor and whatever else that, you know. I wear a few different hats in these projects. I try and make them, you know, an enjoyable experience, you know, so that it's not just a bunch of talking heads, but it's all Bob.
Now, have
he's
you
really gotten to the core of certain aspects of this music that I've never seen anywhere else.
Well, that was going to be my next question, and you kind of answered it right there, is, you know, with you editing a lot of this stuff and you're watching the footage and, you know, obviously listening and watching, are you going, at times you go, holy shit, I never knew that, or wow, that's something I wasn't aware of?
Yeah. Oh, big time. Especially with the first film, because that covered, you know, the 70s through the very early 80s. So I wasn't around back then, but there were, you know, rumors and things that you'd hear just, you know, being an LA musician. And, God, what was that like? What was the Starwood like? You know, so when I had the opportunity to work on this film, I mean, I was just like, yes, let me dig into this. I love it. This is what the Starwood was really like. And, you know, I was a fan from the beginning, and working on a film like this was just like, you know, a fantasy for me, because now I'm getting to the core of things that I've always wondered about myself.
Sure. So that's got to be a cool deal for you. Now let me ask you something. How did you get into the whole, you know, video editing thing? And, you know, is that your background? Do you have a formal education in that? Is just that, did you learn that just on your own through, you know, personal interest, or what?
Totally on my own. I mean, early on, I was, you know, graphic artist. My parents were in the printing business, you know. So when I was in high school, I was the graphic arts guy for the print shop. So, you know, I had a background in doing all of that, illustration and logo design and all that. And, you know, and then later on, I started doing things for other bands, flyers and logos and all that. So, I mean, I kind of had a background in that, but video editing was totally new for me. I had to teach myself how to do it, and just out of necessity, I figured it out.
Perfect. So now, I'm going to get really kind of geeky here, but what kind of equipment are you using? Are you using like a Mac, or what's your setup like?
I'm using I run Adobe Premiere on a PC.
Perfect. So
it works.
So no problem. No problem with the Microsoft stuff, huh?
No, I mean, everybody's like, PC. What are you doing on a PC? But coming from a graphics background, I've always been PC.
Okay.
So I'm just, it's something I'm familiar with and comfortable with. So, plus it's easier to find stuff for PC. Apps and filters and all that stuff. For Mac, it's just like you pay through the nose.
Sure. Absolutely.
So that's what I run.
Right. Well, if you want to check out some of the SNEW music, as well as some of Curtis's hand at editing, if you haven't picked it up or haven't watched it yet, check out the Inside Metal series. I think there's 6 releases out there right now, if I'm not mistaken. And there are more to come.
Yeah, we're working on the next batch right now.
Absolutely. So lots of good material coming your way. Well, let's get back to your latest release. You've got Some Nerve. What's the story behind the the title of the new album or record or CD? I don't even know what to call them these days, because it seems like all the media is gone. It's all MP3 and downloads. So what do you call it? An album or?
It's an album. I mean, an album is not the medium it's on. It's a collection, right? That's what an album is. So it's a collection of songs. It's an album,
right?
So there you go.
So what's the story behind the title?
Well, kind of like everything we're talking about. The way we started this conversation, you were like, "So why are you still doing this?" Well, we get the nerve, I guess. So there you go.
Yeah.
It just seemed fitting. I mean, that song's kind of about that whole idea of just doing the thing that matters to you, and who cares what anybody else thinks.
I agree with that. Now, when it comes to the, the participants in SNEW, have you guys been able to keep a core band together after all these years, and you can just kind of get together when it's time to do this, or how does that work for you?
Well, I mean, the core of the band, Mark on drums, Andy on guitar, and myself have been there from the beginning. But we've shifted bass players here and there. But yeah, so when it's time to start thinking about the next record, usually it up to this point it was every 2 years. We'd put out the record, do some touring, write songs, and then go in and record the next one.
Right.
This one took a little bit longer, obviously, but it's still the way we function is in that regard. We focus on putting out a record, playing live, and then we get back to songwriting.
Sure. Well, since you mentioned bass players, and I know you did a little tribute to Willie Bass, who passed away about a month and a half ago. I've had Willie on the show here before, and I met him face to face at the NAMM show a couple of years ago. What did he pass away from? I mean, what happened to Willie?
Well, I mean, he battled cancer for a long time.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Well, he really struggled for quite a number of years, actually. We were hoping he'd pull through it. He'd be one of those guys who could beat it, because it really looked like he was. I mean, he struggled with this for, at least 5 years. And, he finally lost the battle. And, we're all saddened by that. He was such an amazing guy, just full of energy, full of life. See him go down like that was just tragic.
I'm sure it was. I know. I met him, in person for the first time about 2 years ago at the NAMM show, and I knew he was kind of dealing with something, because he was like wearing latex gloves, for I took some pictures with him and chatted with him for a few minutes, and very nice guy, very very easy to talk to, and was sad to hear that he had passed away, and I was not aware that you were closely associated with him.
Yeah, well, he was in the band for a year. He did the What's It To You album with us. And, then we did some touring together. And this was right after we lost our first bass player. And we were ready to go into the studio and start working, recording. But we needed a new bass player. And I just thought, I'll call Willie, see if he's into maybe just recording a couple tracks with us. He was so into it, he wanted to join the band. I was blown away, because, Willie, he's a front man. He's not just a bass player. I mean, he's the guy in the spotlight. But he liked what we were doing so much that he was willing to just be the bass player, and that's it. So I was blown away. It was like, you want to do this? Sure, you could be on the record. You can, it was awesome. So, and he contributed some background vocals and stuff. I mean, there's some great harmonies on that record. It's all me and Willie. Just awesome.
Sure, absolutely. Now on this new release, you've got some nerve. I notice on your new video and your new song, You're Freaking Me Out. You're kind of branching out a little bit. You I'm not sure if those are horns or if those are synthesizers.
No, those are live horns.
Those are live horns. So what was your thought process there in saying, we're going to kind of break away a little bit from the typical bass, guitar, drums, vocals, and we're going to kind of branch out a little bit? How did that come about?
Well, I mean, I was the one who instigated that. Just for some reason, I heard horns on that song. Just, like Aerosmith sometimes puts horns in there, or the Rolling Stones, or and I just heard that, and I said, we got to try this. And Andy was like, I don't know about that. And Bobby, the producer, was like, I don't hear horns on this. I go, trust me, this is going to work. And Mark knew a couple of great horn players, and he was excited about it because, he called his friends up. He says, get down there in the studio. And it came off exactly the way I imagined it. So I was pretty happy about that.
Well, I'm a big fan of brass myself. I kind of grew up listening to Chicago and Blood, Sweat, and Tears, mostly. And, when I got into the early 80s and I was working in a record store and got into the hard rock, and, when I moved out to the L.A. area back in 85, I got into the harder rock stuff. But when George Lynch incorporated horns into Tangled in the Web with the Lynch Mob, I thought, now that's a nice, perfect combination. Some hard rock, kind of a metal thing, but got some horns in it. This is what that reminds me of.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, horns were the, electrified guitars before there was such a thing. That big punchy sound came from the horn section. All those big bands, And I still, when I write guitar riffs, a lot of the guitar riffs, are my ideas, and I hear them as horn parts. And I will, sing them to Andy. I go, I'll sing the part, and I'll sing it like, I'm playing a trumpet or something. And then he'll play it on guitar, and I was like, yeah, that's it. Because that punch is so much a part of what hard rock is. And really, you could do it on horns, and it still has that vibe.
Sure.
So, I just really heard that for this song. And actually, we put horns on another song as well on this record, on the song Sharpie. That's the other tune that's got horns on it. And that was just kind of a last-minute thing. We were like, well, let's see if we can put horns on another tune. We got these guys here. But I from the start, I heard it on You're Freaking Me Out.
Perfect. Well, it's cool to hear a little bit of a progression there in your development as a band, you know, as an entity, and you know, of course, that just kind of is a different twist. You know, when I listened to You're Freaking Me Out for the first time, I certainly wasn't expecting horns, and when they kind of kicked in there, I was just like, holy shit, what are these guys doing? You know, but it was a good holy shit, not like holy shit, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think that's why everybody was like scratching their heads. Are you sure about this? I'll go, trust me, it's going to work.
Nice. Perfect. Well, what is the plan for SNEW? I mean, I know you guys do some touring. I know that you do some touring over in the European markets. What is your fan base here in the U.S.? Do you have a fan base in the U.S. that makes it viable for you to go out?
We have?
No, I don't.
Do we have a fan base?
No, I don't mean it that way. I mean, is it viable to where you can go out and play shows in the U.S., or is your market more European, or what is it?
That's a tough question to answer. I mean, yeah, we've got, you know, it's probably 50-50. You know, it's of course easier to play the U.S. than it is to go overseas.
Right,
but,
of course.
Yeah, well, we just got back from, you know, playing England, and it was our first time over there. We were like, holy shit, what took us so long? We got to go back.
Right.
It was great, you know, because there's a little bit of a different vibe there. And, you know, the enthusiasm is pretty much the same throughout, here as well as there, but I don't know, they seem to take things a little bit more seriously, you know, in their critique. So when they like you, it's like it actually means something.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to say, because those, you know, the people in the UK or the European market, they're a little more hardcore about their love of their music, because, you know, obviously the bigger festivals are over, you know, in Germany and in the UK and whatnot. Yeah. I mean, obviously we have a few here in the US, but it's not quite as what's the word I'm looking for?
Prevalent.
Yeah, prevalent, or is it there? We don't have the same enthusiasm here as they do over there.
I mean, we got the enthusiasm. It's just we're not being given the opportunities. You know, I mean, there used to be, you know, big concerts, you know, every month, and now it's like few and far between. You got to pay, you know, $1,000 for a ticket or something.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's being taken away from us. I don't think it's got anything to do with our fandom, our enthusiasm as fans of this music. I think it's a deliberate exclusion. That's my philosophy.
I gotcha. Well, let me ask you something. You know, one of the bands that are kind of getting a lot of press these days, one of the younger bands, and I'm sure you're well aware of them, is Greta Van Fleet. And, you know, everybody's thinking, oh, this is the second coming of Led Zeppelin. And, you know, granted, you know, they're a competent young band, and they do obviously have a very familiar style to what they do. What is your thoughts on a Greta Van Fleet?
I think they're off to a good start, but they're going to need time to develop. Right? I mean, how young are those guys?
They're about 19, 20, 21 years old.
Yeah, see, they haven't hit their stride yet. They're just getting started. You know, I mean, whatever help they may have had in the studio producing that record, you know, I don't know. But they undoubtedly had some kind of help. I mean, 19-year-olds just don't get that kind of sound without some serious help. That's not to, you know, say that I doubt their talent. It's obviously there. But this is a band we're going to have to watch for a while.
Right.
See where they actually take it from here. It's one thing to come out with a very Zeppelin-esque thing your first time around, but where are they going to take it?
Well, that's a good question. Obviously, they got some powerful people behind them for the fact that, they got to play Coachella and, things like that. But will they live up to the hype? That's the question, I'm sure.
That's the thing. I mean, these labels and managers and all of that love to get behind young guys, right? Because they see a future, and they see that they can mold them any way they want. But are they going to stick with it? Are they being led around by the nose, or is this really who they are? This is what we're going to find out in the years to come. So I'm not discounting this, what they put out so far. It's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it doesn't sound like, I don't want to be critical. I don't want to be critical, but it sounds like there's more cooks in the kitchen than just the band.
Right. It could be a manufactured thing, right?
It sounds somewhat organic, but again, I hate to be critical because I don't know them.
Right.
I don't know them, so I would just say that these are some guys who've got some talent, and there's potential for the future, but we're going to have to wait and see what shakes out.
Sure, absolutely. Well, obviously, SNEW has got this new one. You've got some nerve. What is it? What do you want to tell the fans about this new one that, maybe I haven't touched on yet? Maybe point some stuff out to us that maybe you want the fans to pay attention to.
Well, it comes from the heart. It's not contrived. It's not something that we've got a recipe for. It's just what comes out of us. And I think we've progressed as a band. I mean, each time we try and outdo ourselves in some way. So I want feedback from everybody else. It doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you think. So I want feedback.
Well, absolutely.
That's the thing I want to put out there. Talk to me.
Sure. Now, the thing is about SNEW is that you guys are self-financed. Am I correct in that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the whole put your money where your mouth is, because you actually do.
That's what we've always done, yeah.
Right.
There's nobody backing this thing. It's us. And our producer Bobby, who's been there from day one, and he helps facilitate a lot of the things of getting us into these great studios and working with, some of these other, engineers and hey, that is what put us in a different strata than what we might have been without that. So you could say we've got moral backing and creative backing, but there's no money.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the unfortunate part about it. And believe me, when we play something new from a band, whether it's SNEW or maybe a veteran band like a Metal Church or even a Stephen Piercy, who is still out there putting out new product, we know that there isn't those multi-million-dollar deals backing this up. You guys are doing this because you just for the love of doing it.
It's in our DNA.
Yeah.
And that's the dividing line right there. Is when you see guys like that doing it when there's no money, they're doing it because they have to. I mean, that's what we do. That's what I do. Personally, I can tell you that without music, I'm half a man. I'm just not a complete person. I have to do this.
Right.
So if I don't make any money off it, if it costs me money, I don't care. I need my fix.
There you go.
I gotta sing. I gotta write. I gotta be on stage. It's just who I am.
Right. Well,
but that's the way. That's what an artist does. An artist creates, right? I mean, Van Gogh died a pauper, right?
I agree with that completely. Now, I want to ask you something, Curtis. This goes back to your last record and the video you did for Pull My Stinger. You had that chick in the video. Yeah. Obviously, she's sitting there playing the guitar, and pouring honey all over herself. Was she as cool as she appeared to be in the video? Is she like a cool chick, or do you even know her?
No, we didn't really know her.
No?
No, she just took the gig.
Well, in the video, she got kind of a really nonchalant attitude. It looks like
she was that.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, that was her. Just she walked in the room that way, and we said, "Here's a gallon of honey." Sure, okay, whatever you want.
Right.
And she was that cool and cold and just nonchalant, and then she just left, and that was it.
That was it, huh?
That was it. It took us a while to find her, too, because, we talked to a number of girls, and as soon as we said, we want you to pour honey on yourself, they just kind of hung up the phone.
Nice.
And she was like, okay.
So do you and the band come up with the concept for these videos? I mean, I'm assuming you do. So yeah. I mean, we don't have Steven Spielberg or anything. So to go out to an apiary in front of a bunch of bees and wear bee outfits and film a video and pour honey all over a chick and everything, it's just like. Now, I got this idea. We got this chick in a white bikini. She's rocking out on a Gretsch guitar or something. Then we're going to rock out in a bee yard with bees flying around us. And we're going to sing Pull My Stinger. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah, let's do it. Fuck yeah.
That was it exactly. I just, I called up a bee farm that was near, in the area, and I just, let me see if I can even pull this off in the first place. I called him up, and I said, can we come out there and film a music video? And he's like, okay, sure. I go, can you provide us with the beekeeper suits? Oh, yeah, I got a whole bunch of new ones. No problem. So it happened.
Nice.
I was not expecting it to go that easy, believe me. I was like, I got this idea, but I don't know if I can pull it off. And I made one phone call, and he's like, sure, come on up. So it happened. And then we had to find a girl, because that wasn't shot there.
Right.
And so I made numerous calls. Like I said, kept getting the phone hang up. As soon as we said, you're going to pour honey all over yourself, dressed in a bikini. But she said yes, and so I was like, it's on. We're doing this.
Nice.
And let me tell you, when we filmed it over at Andy's house. And he's got like 5 roommates. And all those guys called their friends, and the whole place was filled with guys just staring at her. And it was like, oh, my God, this girl's going to get fed up and walk out.
Right.
But she was cool as she was in that video, and 100% professional. Took 20 minutes, and then she left.
How'd she clean off? Did she just like jump straight in a shower, or what the fuck?
Yeah, we just gave her a towel, and she went up to the shower, showered off, and left. Never heard from her again.
Nice. Well, I enjoy that video, and I enjoy the music you guys do, obviously, and I'm glad
Thanks,
you guys are still doing what you do in between, your other jobs and your other gigs. And so what's on the horizon for SNEW in 2019, since we're rolling down to the end of the 2018 year?
I know. Well, we've actually got our new video is premiering tomorrow. Yeah, Friday. It's for the song Settling Queen, and it features live footage from the Hard Rock Hell Festival that we just played last month. So it's largely just a live video, and it's all cut together for that song. And yeah, it premieres tomorrow.
Excellent. Now, what is your thoughts on, obviously, there's no MTV these days anymore, so you have to promote your videos and things on YouTube and Vivo and Facebook and wherever it is you can get an outlet there. So what's your thoughts on all that?
I think it's fantastic. I love it. Because, let's face it, a band like us, back in the MTV days, our videos wouldn't be seen. Now we've got our own channel. We've got our own outlet for putting out anything we want. I mean, how awesome is that?
And it doesn't cost you $250,000 to make a music video.
No, it doesn't. So how could I possibly complain?
Right.
How could anybody complain? People are complaining that the industry's not what it used to be, but you know what? There are more opportunities now than ever.
That's true. It's just a matter of finding your audience or your audience finding you.
That's it. That's what it is. But you've got the ability to go out there and find your audience, for them to find you. And, your show is based on that whole concept, right?
It is. It is. And we are self-funded. Trust me, I've got the bills to show you about it.
Yeah. See what I mean?
23 years in, man.
Yeah. It's people like us that keep this ball rolling.
Sure.
And there's so many people like us out there. We're not getting the press. The mainstream is ignoring us. We're a bunch of dinosaurs. No, there are more of us than there ever were before. And we're still out there. And that's why your show is on the air after all these years, because people love it, and we're the ones who support it. So, more power to us.
Right. I couldn't said it better myself. All right, Curtis. Well, is there anything else you want to tell the fans here?
Well, like I said, talk to me. We're on every social media platform, so just let's talk. Hit me up anytime. Believe me, I will get back to you.
Perfect. All right. Well, you can follow SNEW over their website at SNEWU.com and look for them on Facebook and I'm sure Twitter and, as you said, all the social media platforms. And look for their brand new video for Acetylene Queen.
Yeah.
So it sounds like good stuff to me. All right, Curtis.
All right, Neely.
Well, I tell you what, it's always a pleasure to have you here on the show. Whether you're promoting a record or not, you're always welcome to come back anytime. And as always, we let the artist pick a closing song from the interview from the brand new release. So, what should we play? And tell us a quick story about it.
Oh God. Well, I'm tempted to say play Acetylene Queen since that's the video, but since you can watch the video and get the song there, maybe we'll go with the title track.
Okay. You got some
and
nerve.
Again, you've got some nerve. You have the nerve to go out there and be the biggest metalhead in the world because you're the one who's doing it and we're the ones who are paying attention.
Perfect. All right, we'll go pick up the brand new SNEW. You've got some nerve, and, well, here it is. This is the title track exclusively here on your Classic Metal Show.